Okay. At this video, we're going to talk about uh, in a special product or perfect square in rational the rational expression. Okay. Okay. Let's solve some example. Like you have x minus 3x minus 10 x minus 5. We are gonna simplify and do this. This is trinomial and this is binomial. This is the rational expression. The way to solve it, see that we can say, as we talked about it earlier, that x minus 5, that x plus 2. Multiplication of those two is going to be this one. Subtraction, it's going to be minus 5 plus 2 is going to be minus 3. So this is x minus 5, and then this cancels out. It's going to be x plus 2. So you have to, every time you see something like that, you have to factor them. It's another one to say, as we talked about it earlier, that first of all you have to factor this one. Okay. To factor this one, you say that what's going to be, see here is going to show something like one of the factor is going to be something like that, because we're going to cancel out. So it's going to be x7. So 7 times what? 7 times 6. So what we do the general way, you say the factor of these two. Factor of 42. What's going to be 1 times 42, then divided by 2 is going to be 21, divided by 3 is going to be 13, and divided by 4 is not going to work. 5 is not going to work. 6 and 7. 6 and 7. Okay, 6 and 7 is going to be, and something like that. If we add, these two numbers related to this, add them up to many 13, and multiplication is 42. So either it's going to be multiplication is 42. It's going to be both minus, so it's going to be 6 and 7. Both of them are going to be minus, is going to be 42, the answer, or both of them is positive, is going to be 42. So we choose this one, minus 7, 6 and minus 7. Because of what? Because if you add them up, it's going to be minus 13. And multiplication of 6 and 7, so those two numbers are 6 and 7. So it's going to be what? Minus 7 minus 6, because if your multiplication is going to be plus 42, if you add them up, it's going to be minus 13. So minus 6 minus 7 is going to be minus 13. Multiplication of these two negative number times the negative number, it's going to be positive number. So what we find out that it's going to be minus 6 and minus 7. So you say x minus 6, x minus 7 times x minus 7. Some cancels out, x minus 6. So you have to, practice this a lot. The way you practice, say, what are the numbers, like say, sometimes the number, you have to practice this a lot, you to learn this, because, it, okay, it's something like x minus 5, x plus 9, and this, if you multiply them, you are going to get minus 45. If you add them, it's going to be plus 4x and x2. So if you multiply them, 9 times 5, 45, minus 45, minus 5 plus 9 is going to be. So every time you see something like that, you should be able to see what are those two numbers that if we add them up is going to be this, and we multiply this is going to be this. Okay, you have to practice a lot. And let's talk about another thing, another rational expression that x plus 4 times x2 minus 16. See, remember this one. These are a special product, of this quadratic. So there are two of them that perfect square. It's this is perfect square. We can 16 and x2. So the rule we talked about it, if you have something like that, you square x squared and actually 4 squared. This is, we can write it like this, okay? x2. So what you don't always remember that if you have something squared here, a squared, okay, and then minus b squared, another expression in there is a square. It's going to be a plus b if you write it in factor form. If you want to write it in a factor form, it's this way. You say, we write a on both, and then plus b minus b. So this is going to be the same. We say x minus 4 times x plus 4. And if we add these, we are going to get that. So x2 plus 4x minus 4x and minus 16, and this cancels out x2 minus 16. So every time you see something like that, remember that you can do this, you know, as we talked about it earlier. Okay, let's solve this one. So we say x plus 4, x minus 4 times x plus 4. And then this cancels out, you know, this is a multiplication cancels out. If not multiplication, you can't do that. 1 over x minus 4. And you know, you can always write this one, 1 minus x minus 4, okay? You can write it this, as we talked about it earlier, x minus 4 times to the power of minus 1. Then actually, 1, we don't write it, 1, you know, if there is 1 behind it. So we can write it this way. So, you know, always remember that. Now we talk about addition of, like, for example, x minus 1 and plus x plus 1. See, you see x plus 1, x minus 1. You can say that the common factor of these two, you know, is going to be x2 minus 1, which is equal to this one, multiplication of these two. And then when you divide this one by this one, see, so, or the other way around, we can say we got to make, you know, this a common factor. Or something like this, x minus 1, x2 minus 1. What is this? This is, as we said, x2 minus 1, x minus 1 times x plus 1, okay? And then the common factor is going to be x2 minus 1. And when you have something like this, one way to say or to solve it, if we say we both sides of this one, we multiply it by x plus 1, and we have x minus 1 here times x plus 1 plus. We can multiply. We can multiply both numerator and denominator by a number or by anything, you know. We have make sure that you do it on both the top and bottom, the numerator and denominator. You just don't multiply x plus 1 to the top and not the bottom. So plus x2 minus 1. We change this one to, you know, we just multiply this one, so we have common denominator. We have x2 minus 1, and then we have both common denominator. We add these numerator together. So it's going to be 2x plus 2 plus x, x2 minus 1. Is it going to be 3x plus 2, x2 minus 1. Okay. So did you get the idea? You know, you have a common denominator and you add these two. If it was minus in between, then it's going to be minus here, and that is going to be minus here, and it's going to be x. 2x minus 1x is going to be 1x. 1x plus 2 is that's going to be something like that. Okay. All right. So that's the best way I would do. I told you another way. That's almost the same. You know, you divide you divide this one by this one. It's going to be x plus 1. When you divide x2 minus 1, divide minus x. Okay, it's going to be x plus 1, right? Because this is x minus 1 times x plus 1. And if you divide it by x minus 1, it's going to be x plus 1. So, and then you divide this one by this one, and then multiply by this one. It's going to be 2. So it's going to be 2 times x this way. 2 times x plus 1, as was the same thing, you know, the same thing happened. And this one is just going to be x, because this one divided by this one is going to be 1. 1 times x is going to be x, and then, you know, so all you get the same answer. 2x plus 2 plus x, and x2 minus 1, and it's going to be 3x plus 2 and x2 minus 1. So that's the way to solve these things, this expression. Suppose that we have multiplication here. Multiplication. So what we do, we multiply those together, and this one together is going to be 2x, the numerator together, and x minus 1 times x2 minus 1, and it's going to be 2x. This is actually x minus 1 times x minus 1 times x plus 1. You can write it x minus 1 power of 2, there are 2 of them, times x plus 1. So that's the multiplication. You know, you can give thousands of hundreds of examples, and you know, all these to understand. Suppose that this is x2 and this is x. You can write it x minus 3. We're going to make it complicated, a little bit complicated here. 2 to the power x minus 3. What does that mean? Actually, it means 2 times 2, and then it's going to be. See, every time you see something like that, you can bring it down to the denominator and be the positive exponent. In some places you have to do that, you know, when like in differentiation, integration, and all, we later on we get to it, you know, you have to bring it up like minus 3, like you want to differentiate this one. I just give you just idea, just we have a long way to go to get to that point. So we say minus 3 is going to be times 2 is going to be minus 6x, and this is going to be minus 1. So minus 3 minus 1 is going to be minus 6 is over minus 1. Now we don't want to. We want to get to this first to see. So let's be this one start from addition. So the common denominator is x2 minus 1. And what we did, we multiplied this one by x. So x plus 1, this is x plus 1 times x minus 1. So you multiply the top and bottom by x minus 1 to make the common denominator x plus 1, and then the 2x minus 3 times x plus 1 plus x2 minus 1. So we have the same common denominator, x2 minus 1. That is what it is. X minus 1 times, you have to practice this a lot. Whenever you said something is a squared, both of them are squared, like x2 minus 25, you said both of them are squared. The square root of those is minus 5 is x plus 5. The factor form. You got to, because it's very necessary to learn those. So let's continue this. This is going to be, we add both numerator together. But we have to multiply this one by this one. 2 times x, see, this is x to the power of 1. And when we have the common denominator, common base, you add this together. The sum of these two numbers. Okay? When you add them up, what's going to be? Minus 3 plus 1. And then you do the same thing for the other one. It's going to be plus 2 times x to the power of minus 3. And x2 plus 1. And then when you come here to simplify more, 2x minus 2 plus 2x minus 3. I don't want to make more complicated. This is going to be plus x2 plus x2. So x2 minus 1, x2 minus 1, the common denominator. So we get something like this. Now we are, it is normal multiplication. We just add them, we add this one to this one, and this one to this one, because the one item here times two item. Okay, we have multiplied to both of them. We say 2r plus, the plus here is going to be 2b. 2 is going to multiply by both to write it down there. So it's a addition. Sometimes you can factor. You say, I want to factor. I just want you to do it yourself. You want to factor x to the power of 2 from the top one. What's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to this? It's interesting that you will. I mean, this is the main point. Sometimes you have to factor this one. Okay? So because, when you factor something, from this one, okay, the first one is going to be 2x. 2. It's going to be 2. Because I want you to practice yourself. If you multiply this one minus 2, we are talking about the. If you multiply this one by this one, when you factor it, you will get the same answer. So what is going to be? This is a little bit. We don't want to get to that right now, but think about it. It's very important. Sometimes you have to factor something, and ugly things, and so. This is. We talked about the multiplication, addition, subtraction of the rational expression. Now division. We say 2x 2y over 3x6, I don't know, y squared divided by 5x x2 minus 1. Right, just for example. See, for doing this, the best way is, do it in this way. You say 2x2y 3x6 y2 times the reverse of this. The reverse of this rational fraction, it's x2 minus 1 and divided by x, 5x. So well, I want to make it easier to write something that we say x2 y7, x2 y7. Well, we want to write now for the simplification of this multiplication of the rational function. See, we have x2 here. We have x2 here. Actually, it's going to be x4. Talk about x4 right now. x4. And the bottom of here is we have x6. Okay. And then there is a x here. It's going to be x7 because this is multiplication. So if we multiply this, so what I'm saying about x, actually this is going to be x7, and the result is going to be x minus 3. You could write this way. You could write x3, and which is x to the power minus 3. Now I want to solve it. We just solved it for x, but we are gonna let's continue this one. So about the coefficient, we have only two coefficients here, 2, and then 3 times 5 is going to be 15 times x. We said that x, if we find it x to the power of minus 3, this is the power of x3. This 2 plus 2 is going to be 4, and this is going to be 7, x to the power of 7, so it's going to be x to the power of minus 3. Or we can write it here, x to the power of 3. Because the degree of x at the bottom is 7, at the top is 4, so it's going to be 3. So we have x and then y. We have y here 8 to the power of 8 and to the power of 2. So actually y is going to be what? Is going to be to the power of 6, because we write here 8 minus 2 y to the power of 6. Okay, so that is the way to simplify. You got to, there are hundreds of these, you have to do these examples. You have to create your own problem and solve it, or look at this video and then pause where pause it where you want to do practice. Just pause it if you can do it yourself.